Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V, where we are intentional about connecting you with other entrepreneurs that have overcome and want to provide value to the audience. It's Dr. V here, where our coaching program teaches nurses to work from anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time, building profitable nurse coaching and consulting businesses. So today we have Hennesys Disla. Did I say that right? Because
Yes, you did.
well, you look at me. Hallelujah. So now, so tell us, give us a little bio of you, Hennesys.
Yeah, so hi everybody. So excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to come on live. My name is Hennesys Disla, and I am the CEO of ArmHug. ArmHug is a medical supply kit company that's customizing kits for nurses and phlebotomists that are going mobile. So if you know anybody that's going mobile, connect them with us and we can give them an education on what supply chain needs to be for your business. Entrepreneurs need that today, and that's what we focus on. And our mission is essentially to make sure that you have a successful business, right? You want it to be stable. You want to be able to be in business for a long time.
I hear a lot about this supply chain. So tell me a little bit about that and why is it so?
Yeah, so there's really no one place you can go to see if there's things that are missing, right? So a few months back, there was a huge Facebook group and they were telling people, hey, we ran out of, our CBC tubes and we're wondering if your hospital has had the same problem. And everybody would just start congregating and be like, yeah, we did too. Does anybody know any websites to find these tubes? We're also missing the butterfly needles. We need the specific size. And apparently they're sold out everywhere. So these things happen a lot. And unfortunately, people tend to steal from the hospitals when they do. Because they need it they want to be able to work for it and they don't want to share with their team, or they have to find another vendor. And sometimes, that's hard to do because you've got your trusted vendors or your national distributors who basically can't give you the supplies you need.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I have seen over the last few years, when I was in nursing, is that I saw, at the beginning, like we had this huge supply of everything that we needed. And then all of a sudden, there came a time where they were like, well, we're on back order for normal saline. What do you mean you're on back order for normal saline? I mean, or Ativan or some other medication that we needed, right? And I'm like, what are you saying to me? Right?
I know nurses who have tried to drive down to the manufacturer to show them that, I really need this because I have clients and I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm going to do with my business, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Because they'll let you know, and it's like they'll let you know maybe a week before you're supposed to get your order, and they make you believe like, well, my order's in, so you don't have it, but you're telling me that the computer says that your order is in, so it should be shipped out soon. They just didn't have it, but they're not clear or transparent with their customers and telling them, we just can't give it to you right now. So yeah.
And so what your company, what they do, you specifically supply them with the butterfly needles and the IV kits?
Yes. So what we're looking at is essentially if someone needs to start a blood draw, they would just need like the 7 main items, right? Gauze, a needle, Band-Aid, the essentials that you would need, disposables is what they call them. And we package them in a kit so that every time you go and see a patient that needs a blood draw, it's the same essential items.
Right.
And then if you're going for an IV, it's essentially the same. Some nurses prefer 2 different size needles, which is perfectly fine. We customize it that way. You go to your closet, you grab your kit, and you tell your patient to sit down. We're going to start your IV.
And you are very transparent with your clients.
Oh yeah. So if I can't source a specific item, I would tell them, hey, we can't source this. This is the problems that we're seeing. But because we have so many people in our network that do this, we are able to ask somebody quickly, say, hey, were you able to source this item? And they'll be like, oh yeah, this is a supplier that I use, that I trust. So using our network has been really, really great.
Sweet. So now let's talk about you. Let's talk about where you came from. So tell us how you kind of began, like early in life.
And
And
early
you look like you're still early in life, but we're going to talk about early in life. So early in life, what did you do from the beginning?
I look younger than I am, but yes. Let's see. So when I was a kid, I really loved because I'm starting early, but it connects, you'll see. Um, I started in a household full of artists.
Uh-huh.
Well, my mother was in fashion, my sister was a dancer, and I just started drawing a lot.
Hmm.
So I really love the idea of, like, kind of building things and creating things. Went to college, did the same, went for art, and I started to feel like I wanna do something with community. You know, I was like, "I wanna do something to give back to my community," started volunteering. So that's kind of how healthcare came into my life. I volunteered at Mount Sinai Hospital for a couple years. I was working in different departments. I worked in neurosurgery department and just kind of helping with their programs, mostly. And then I got into the neurology department, and they were looking for staff that they needed help with, like, data collecting, all these things. And I was volunteering mostly and learning a lot about ways that I could help. Like, they just needed help. I found that a lot of hospitals just need a lot of help all the time.
Hmm.
Now I know that it's just all the time.
Hmm.
Um, and I really enjoyed the people I met there. And my first certification that I got through their adult education classes was a phlebotomist, and it was like a junior phlebotomist, entry level job. And so I started to train with them, and I started to shadow a lot of the phlebotomists at LabCorp because they were seeing about 80 patients daily, if not more. And it was between, like, what, 5 or 6 of them. So I got to see everything from babies that needed their blood drawn, from pediatrics to adult seniors that needed it for MS diagnosis or an MS research study. So from that point on, with that certification, I was able to join the team as a junior coordinator. So I was basically scheduling patients who wanted to participate in any of the studies that we were doing, any research studies that the doctors were doing, and I would do the blood draws.
And so but how did you become a project manager? Because you were a project manager at one point in time, correct?
Yes. So I worked there for a couple years, and then I saw an opportunity to essentially just grow into a position where I could work with different studies for a healthcare data company. So
Hmm.
what I did before, I was in research, but I was scheduling for clinical trials and, the research studies that we had inside the clinic. But as a project manager, I would be working with medical device companies, so it was a bit more corporate. But I was doing the same thing at a different capacity. I had more projects, and I didn't get to see patients anymore. And
Hmm.
I felt that. I was like, "This feels so different. Okay, great. I'm working on all these big companies like Stryker Medical Device, and, this is great. Like, this is so exciting," but I wasn't seeing patients anymore. And I don't know if people feel this, like, once you do and then you don't, it feels weird.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
wanted to know how they were doing. I was like, "I wonder how," because they would always come in and they'd be like, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, "I wonder how they're doing." And I would see them on the train sometimes. I wonder if they remember me, because you can't forget some of
That's
these people.
That's right. That's right. I love, love, love that because I think that some people think that when they leave, a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to lose my skills. And, your skills are your skills. If you lose them, that's fine. I mean, you'll be able to, it's like riding a bike whenever you start an IV on somebody, right? I just feel like that's the way that it is. We'll see the next time I start an IV on someone. But anyway, so the deal is that I think that the biggest thing really is losing that contact with patients because they are so super funny and like they have all these stories and they're hilarious. Like this one guy came in and we have to ask all these questions, right? We have to ask all these questions about and they were leading questions up to whether you were suicidal or not, right? Because we had this guy that
Right,
actually
right.
unalived
Questionnaire.
himself, right? And so we have to ask them, are they on drugs? And this one guy He said, "I smoke weed every day." And I said, "Okay." I was like, like you can't make this stuff up, right?
No.
It's like so funny. And so I was like, that's really how, I mean, I can tell you probably some more grotesque stories, but we won't do this on this podcast. Okay, we'll tell it on another one. But it is super funny connecting with patients and having a good time with them for sure. So now you went from project manager and then you became a CEO. So tell me a little bit about that.
So I wanted to have that connection again with patients. I
Okay.
wanted to go back to that. I wanted to get back to that feeling that I had with the patients, which
Mhm.
is talking with the community and talking to people and hearing their stories and figuring out a way to help them. And I could get that now with what I do, right? I'm calling somebody up and I'm saying, how are you doing? How's the business going? I'm getting that network feeling that I had when I was at the hospital. But now they've left the hospital and they've just transitioned to doing something else. I still get patient stories. I still get to hear how their patients are doing. And it's like I get to relive that moment that I had when I was at the hospital. So sometimes moving up is just it changes some things that you loved about your job originally. So,
So now tell me, what was you transition out because of the connection, right?
right.
Now, what made you think, instead of just going back to where you were, what made you think to go and start up your own company?
So I saw a lot of issues there and I felt responsibility if I could help.
So back up, back
um,
up, back
yeah.
up. We want to talk about the issues. So what issues did you see?
Yeah. So it's kind of a mess sometimes when you are putting on a team and you have to learn a lot of things all at once because this is how it is. And if they're short staffed, they expect you to take on a lot of different tasks that you probably don't have time for. So one of the things that I struggled with was being prepared for the patients when they were ready for me. And obviously, because a lot of our doctors are really smart doctors and they all see a lot of patients, right? It's like we had to be right behind them. We had to be ready too. I would have preferred like kits so that whenever my patient was ready for those blood draws, I was ready. That means if I had to bring a cart with me, a bag, whatever it is, I wanted to be ready. I had to do a lot of the sorting, and once the supplies got there, we had to share baskets. And I mean, you can imagine these little baskets with the team, and it wasn't enough. It just didn't feel like it felt like we were just trying to figure it out. Like, why isn't this already figured out? Like, why doesn't somebody already work closely with the supply chain and figure out kits that you can make so that people could just start the procedures right away? It just felt like we were still in in the daycare or high school or something and just figuring it out as we go. So here, I'm supposed to start this procedure. Let me just get my colleague to help me find where the gauze is. Our supply closet seems to be kind of empty. Like now we're going to have to borrow something from the lab next door. There's a lot of issues with communicating. Sometimes people are so busy. You also can't just knock on someone's door and just say, "Hey, I need this."
That's interesting. It's interesting that, so what years were that you dealt with that?
I want to say 2017,
Wow.
2015, 2017.
Because I've been a nurse for 30 years, and I don't even remember a time. Maybe at the very beginning, we didn't have a complete kit, right? But I would say 5, maybe 7 years in, we had a complete kit. So that's interesting that you had to deal with that at that time. But of course, I don't remember that. That's interesting. And so you had to just find multiple items. And so then that you found a problem, right? And you solved the problem, right? And so that's where you went. That is truly, truly interesting. So now you are now solving this problem. Now, who do you primarily serve?
Yeah, so right now, we were working with schools.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the schools that are training phlebotomists that, a lot of like let's say they're in high school and they decide they want to start as a phlebotomist just to start their career before they jump into nursing or before they jump into an MD or whatever it is that they want to do. It's like their first training that they could do. You get certified, you go to a class, you can use that to do whatever you want in healthcare. That's how most of the instructors I know pitch it,
Mhm,
because it is a skill. It
mhm.
is something that you could use on. I'm not saying your own family, but I'm sure you've seen someone in your family needing it. So
Right.
that means it's a need. So those are the people we started working with were schools, and then we started working with a lot of med spas. So IV hydration center services, people who have their own retail, people who are in malls. So it's starting to grow because there's a lot of people who are moving on to becoming entrepreneurs. They want to use these skills now on their own time.
So let's talk about the nurse exodus. So tell me a little bit about that. What are you seeing in the nursing profession?
So I think it's kind of scary. I know people who they've been doing this for a long time, and they would just give me a call and just be like, "Hey, I'm ready to just start my own business." And I'm like, "So you've been doing this for 20 years and you're just ready?" You know, how do I explain to them that this is a journey too?
Hmm.
It's not like this is going to happen right away, that you're just going to have a successful business and you can just move on from all this and just, you know, it takes time, but maybe they might stay at that job a little bit longer. Or do we tell them they should just leave because they're unhappy?
Well, I like what Jim Rohn said. He said that he said you get this part time gig. Yeah, if you've ever heard Jim Rohn talk, like he kind of talks like a old,
Yeah.
just kind of just really great speaker. He's super funny. But he said, first time you get this part-time gig and you're able to, you know, collect a little bit of extra money, and you'll make half the amount the first year on that part-time gig as you do on your full-time. And then you start making as much on your part-time as you are on your full-time that second year, and you're able to go on multiple vacations, and people are like, well, how are you doing that? And then you start to then double the money on your part-time gig as you do on your full-time gig, and then you're able to exit the full-time gig. And I think that that's a thing that people sometimes miss out on, is that they leap, right,
Mhm.
and then they don't have anything to fall back on. So I do not suggest leaping, but I do suggest, finding a way, finding a problem to solve. Because then you always, if you have a certain problem to solve, just like you, right, you have that problem, you solve that problem for multiple people, and so now you're able to have an endless supply of money. Grant Cardone talks about the 10x rule and how you 10x that, right, and how you make sure that you are understanding how to make money, right? And once you understand how to make money, then you don't have to stay in that place of scarcity. And so it is that for sure. So go ahead. You want to say something?
No, no, I'm listening. This is good. You're telling us the secrets here.
so so what do you see some of the nurses, what are they saying, as far as like what are some of the stories that they're telling you?
Yeah. So I think for one, some of them are still in school and they already have decided that they want to be entrepreneurs.
Mm,
And I'm like, huh. So I would get these DMs on my Instagram. Hey, I'm a nurse. I've been watching your YouTube channel and I see what you're doing. And, I am interested in starting. So what is it that I need? So I need an LLC. How do I get that? Who do I need to talk to in my town to like give me more information about starting a small business? I want to know how much do I need saved up? Should I have a job while I'm doing it? I mean, you name it, a long list of questions. And I'm like, wow. Um, they're in school and they're already deciding that's what they want to do. I mean, I can't even imagine if, let's say they did start and a lot of them are successful influencers. And a lot of people already knew who they were. If they were to start a business, how would it go?
It's definitely one of those things that whenever you think about it, um, you I kind of admire people who come out with a alternative way of thinking,
Right.
because it's always the traditional way of thinking, right? And the traditional way of thinking, obviously, we need nurses, right? But at the same time, some people who come out, when they come out, I've just like, there's one nurse influencer that has never worked a day at the bedside, a day. And I was like, that's interesting to me. How you have never worked a day at the bedside, yes, yet you are this nurse influencer. And I'm not sure whether I would have enough confidence, right, in order to be able to do that. My 30 years of nursing has, I have very good insight from, the entry level of nursing to the, CEO level of nursing, right? And so, or CNO level of nursing. So I have good insight as to where they are, but I'm not sure whether I would be comfortable doing that. But you know
Right.
what? If you know exactly what you want to do and you want to go for that, then by all means, I think that it should be something that you do. So now tell me a little bit about what you think the future of healthcare, how that's going to look.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely gonna be more people starting earlier. Just like that person who reached out to me, and she was just eager to know more about it. She wanted to stay in touch. She obviously wanted to follow along, like, what other people who have had businesses went through so that she could be like, "Oh, well, I don't have to do that, and I'm gonna try to avoid this mistake," right? It's almost like she's already starting these entrepreneurship classes or whatever you wanna call them, because these webinars feel like classes to teach people on, like, what are things not to do and what are things to do. So, I think they are gonna start younger.
And then you know what? That's the thing about coaching. And so people talk about time, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm going to ask you this question because I always ask people this question. So, time. Do you think time and money are time is equal to money?
So, I know the answer to this. I think you're gonna tell me it should be no, because there's a story out there, and I like this story, but I can't even tell it to other people, but I remember it that you told me the story about the correlation between.
Time and money,
Yes.
because time is more important than money, right? So if
Right.
I gave you $25 million today, and but the caveat was that you had to end your life, would you do it? Would you take the money? No.
Right.
And so if I gave you, you had a incurable disease and you had $25 million, and at the end of the day, you could 100% cure it with that $25 million, would you give the money over in order to cure yourself? Absolutely, you would, right? And then, and Dr. Darius Daniels, he talks about how, important that time is not your highest form of, it's your highest form. And so, I mean, not time, but money is not. He said, because if you had money, but you had to be sick all the time, he said, then you would not do that. Your highest form of compensation, I do believe what is what how he put it. But he said if you had money, he said, and you had to be sick all the time, health is more important than money. If you had money, but your mother or your father or someone in your family had to die, then time, I mean, money would not be as important, right?
Right.
And so relationship is more important than money. And so he talked about fulfillment and how you fulfill your life is more important than money, because time, what happens is it bridges that gap of time. And a lot of people go back to school to get a master's degree in order to start a business, when the reality is that people are teaching the master's degree a lot of times don't, and I'm not saying every last one of them, but a lot of times they don't even have their own businesses. So, going back to school to get those degrees is not as important. The coaching business has grown 2.6% over traditional education, because you get in traditional education, you don't learn how to bridge that gap of time, and you are struggling. So I definitely think that time is more important than money is, for sure. So now tell me a little bit about your network.
Yeah, so I mean, I always try to apply to different types of groups, and whether it's like a Slack group or it's an online community or it's an in-person event, like I should say like an in-person community, and they have a lot of events for women specifically who are trying to grow professionally or women who are trying to be entrepreneurs. So I try to definitely get involved in a lot of those things because the amount of people that you meet and then how they're connected, you always
Mhm.
find that out later. Like, oh, wait a second. I know that person, or I know someone who knows this person. Um, it's been really beneficial, even for getting introductions for business. So, I mean, for people who are interested in starting a business, grow a network.
It was interesting because when we first started, I was on your podcast, and you talked about the fact that you know Jamie, and I was like, well, you know Jamie, Jamie and I are really good friends, right? So it's
Yeah.
like a little network, and so you really can't talk about people, because if you talk about people, you may be talking to their best friend, right? So that's not never ever a good idea.
Yeah, and Jamie was introduced to me from a group of entrepreneurs that one of them was a nurse who knew about her through Facebook.
Interesting. 6 degrees of separation for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Your network determines your net worth, for sure.
I
So, yes. So, is there anything else about your company that you would like to tell us? Like, where can we find you at so that we can get some IV hydration or IV kits? Okay, because and tell the
right.
people, because I don't like to be stuck. Number one, and but we need to be stuck sometimes.
No, yeah, I mean, we're on the website. Anybody can reach out to me. We can customize those kits. So it's like the website showing you the kits that we typically have worked with big, large companies. If you're a small business, we can help with that. It's funny because you don't need to sit there and try to figure out what you need. That's what we're for. We streamline it. We make a lot of the costs more affordable so that small businesses can afford it, and then get you started so that way you can have your own accounts and be able to work with those national distributors that everybody wants to work with. One of the things we have learned though is that we have a relationship with our customers. We're customer centric. So we work for you, we work with you. Those national large suppliers might not be as convenient. They might not be able to answer your emails when you need it, or get those phone calls when you need it. We're a small but mighty team, and we do our best to serve people because we used to serve patients. So, coming from a place where I think a lot of these entrepreneurs are coming from is, we served for so long that now we're ready to help people who really need it. There's a lot of companies now thinking, how can we know a little bit more about our customers? Because it seems like they're going somewhere else.
Sweet. So now, I want you to drop the on Facebook whenever we get off of here. Drop your link.
Okay.
So what's the website? So it's
ArmHug, yeah.
ArmHeart.
www.armhug.com.
Okay, and then also drop your link to your podcast as well. So Hennesys has a podcast. So what's the name of your podcast? You're on YouTube as what?
I think it's just ArmHug because now they started hashtags. Have you seen that?
I have seen that. That was interesting to me that they started those
Yeah.
hashtags.
So the
Oh,
hashtag is ArmHug. I don't know if it makes it easier to search on YouTube, but I mean, all it is ARMHUG, ArmHug.
okay.
The name
Okay.
started because we care about your arm.
I love it. I love it. And so you want to give the arm a hug.
And the things that we do are for your arm.
Very simply, very simply. So, if you are starting, if you're delivering IV fluids to any of your patients or IV antibiotics, I mean, anything that phlebotomy supplies and things of that nature, so I encourage you to seek out Hennessy's because she is absolutely amazing. And so we're going to drop her links on Facebook so that you can see it. And I'm not sure whether we can drop it on LinkedIn, but we can drop it in YouTube as well. Um, and that's it. Do you have anything else that you want to tell the people?
Thank you. Thank you for interviewing me, for sharing time with me because my network is also yours. And so I'm going to also put these on my page so that they can learn more about you and what you're doing. So thank you so much, Dr. V, for having me.
Well, thank you, Hennesys. You are amazing. So, we will be having a master class. It's going to be coming up December 7th. It's
Oh,
completely free. Um, you can upgrade for $97, and afterwards you're able to ask me questions, but it's completely free. We also have our Six Figure Nurse CEO conference, and for this week only, we have you are able to buy one and get one free, but it is only for 10 slots. And one of them is already gone. So I'm sure they will get snatched up. So I encourage you that if you want to join us for the Nurse Six Figure CEO Conference. It's going to be February 24th to 25th. I encourage you to go ahead and purchase your ticket. It's on our website, which is vpnursing.com. The link is in the bio. I ask that you like and share this podcast, and you guys have a phenomenal rest of your day.